Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in my past videos I have covered a lot about the month of Ramadan. Why it's important, why is it that we should not give up a structure that you can follow in the month of Ramadan. But I have not actually discussed the essence of Ramadan. What makes the month of Ramadan beautiful? Why is it a worthwhile investment? Why is it that you should actually make the effort of doing ibadah in these 30 days? What is this motivation? What is this inspiration? Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that's what I'm going to discuss in this video. You see, respect to all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, the one thing that attracts me, and I believe it to be the stem of every benefit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in the month of Ramadan, is the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal does not give up on His ummah. The fact that for 11 months we are drowning in continuous sin. We do all kinds of bad. How many times do you remember yourself neglecting the prayer when it was upon us? How many times do we remember swearing? How many times do we remember smoking? All kinds of things. We've done all kinds of sin. No one is pure. We've done all kinds of wrong. And we know from past history that when such wrong was done in the past, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wiped out entire nations. The nation of Ad, and the nation of Thamud. How many nations Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before us, He wiped them out over a single act of disobedience. And now we are in this era where we're doing all kinds of bad deeds, all kinds of wrong, and yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us, gives us this opportunity called the month of Ramadan to re-establish ourselves as true Muslims. And I believe that is the very essence of it. Let me prove it to you. From the very first thing, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets up this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس. And it is in the month of Ramadan that we have revealed the Quran as a guidance to mankind, as a guidance filled with clear proofs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies it even more in the month of Ramadan in Surah Qadr. قال الله تعالى إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر. Indeed, we have revealed the Quran in the night of decree. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the Quran, the one thing that is guiding all Muslims. And after that, it's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But the point being that the very thing that established Islam, the very thing that guides us, guides the people towards the right path, the Quran, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this very guidance was not revealed in any other month. It was revealed in the month of Ramadan. This is the first proof. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have put in any other month. But to show that Allah is giving us an opportunity to redeem ourselves, to guide ourselves to the right path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals it in the month of Ramadan. طيب, now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this great Quran to us, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stop there? No. This Quran is merely an indication. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it in the month of Ramadan, it's an indication that in the month of Ramadan, when we seek to re-establish ourselves, when we seek to guide ourselves, we should refer to the Quran and the Sunnah. But after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us benefits to help us on our path. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that In the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the gates of paradise and shuts the gates of hell, and the devils are chained. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He could have only given us this guidance and could have made us go on our own way, and the system could have been the same. But instead, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to open up His doors of mercy to actually show the depths of which He's trying to go to get us to come back to Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened His doors of mercy, and the hell which we actually deserved after 11 months of sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides that He does not yet want to punish us. Until the time of death, we have a chance to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closes the gates of hellfire, thus showing His intention of guiding us to the right path. As if that were not enough, He chains up the devils. Now, many a times during the year, I have personally experienced, whenever you go, you tell a brother, brother, you should start coming to the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ advised that you go to the masjid. It may not be fard, but there's extra reward, so you should go to the masjid. A man should be going to the masjid. If you tell this to someone, you find that subhanallah, the first excuse that they give is that, brother, make dua for me, the devil's around us, the shaitan is misguiding us, this and that. But they always put the blame on the shaitan instead of themselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this chance to prove ourselves. What does He do? He chains the devils. Now we don't have that excuse. No one is holding us back now. Now we are free purely on our own will, on our own convincing. It is totally us. So now if you decide not to go to the masjid, now if you decide to continue on your bad, know that it's not the devils that are disturbing you. Yes, they convince you. It's like a fan. They would be what you are the main person that turns the fan. The devils are only there to spark or to blow the fan so that it keeps spinning faster. But they're really not the first ones to launch the fan or turn on the fan. That's us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes it. Now you have the chance to prove yourself. As if that were not enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to motivate us. What does He do? He multiplies our deeds several times over. Now outside the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is already multiplying our deeds several times over. Now, say for example, when you're reading the Quran, there's a clear hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says that for each letter that you read in the Quran, it is worth 10 hasanat. And he clarifies, I don't say that alif lam mim is one letter. I mean that alif is one letter, lam is one letter, and mim is one letter. So each is 10 hasanat. Now, in the month of Ramadan, it's multiplied 70 times over. So the Prophet ﷺ told us it gets multiplied 70 times over. So now imagine you're reading the Quran, originally 10 hasanat per letter. Now that gets multiplied 70 times more. So you have 700 hasanat per letter. Now imagine if you were to read Surah Fatiha alone, you already gathered yourself hundreds of thousands of hasanat already just by reading Surah Fatiha. So this is an indication that now you are no longer held back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you total opportunity to go show off yourself. And by show off, I don't mean go show off to other people. By show off, I mean show off the ability you have to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't waste this opportunity. That's the beauty of the month of Ramadan. The fact that we could have been drowning. We know from past history that we could have drowned. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to give us this month so that we could re-establish ourselves as true Muslims and get back onto His path. At the end of the day, remember, my dear brothers and sisters, none of this ibadah that we are doing is benefiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have, for our disobedience, He could have wiped out the entire universe. He could have wiped out the entire multiverse, everything within the seven heavens and the earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have wiped out everything and remade everything and made a creation like the angels who would only obey him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't do that. He cares for us. It's genuinely out of interest for us so that we may be able to succeed. So don't give up. Use this chance to re-establish yourself as a true Muslim. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Remember, before you leave, if you have any questions regarding this video, please leave it in the comment section. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I will look at it. And who knows, maybe your question could be the very inspiration for my next video. Or it may even be one of those golden questions I'm going to keep aside for a special time. And like I mentioned last time, I'm going to reveal what that special occasion is next month. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.